Hi there everybody, welcome back and welcome to the, well, I don't know what to call this, the new build. That's what we'll call it, the new build. Right, where we left it, we've done the front section and we've done the side wall. Now it's time to get this lot backed up. So what I'm going to do is I'll put you on pause, I'm going to turn these over and we'll start getting these backed up. Okay, we're going to start on the front section, which I've glued the two halves together and let them dry, and we're just going to turn it over. Now we're going to need to back this up. Now we're going to need a window on top of a window, because that will be a good idea, so we can actually put windows in. Now what I actually want to do is I want to stagger the brickwork over the joints, just to give it a bit more strength. You don't really have to, but I am going to. And another thing is that when we turn this over, we've made this into a left-handed panel, so that means the brickwork doesn't line up at the edge. So this means that you can't actually get a realistic look on your brick edge, because it's a header against a stretcher on the inside, so you couldn't leave it toothed out. So I'm going to have to think of something to actually finish this edge off with, but we'll work on that in a little while. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going over the top of each section like so. Window on top of a window and a door on top of the door. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by staggering the joints like so. I've already cut all these pieces ready, so we're going to start staggering the joints. This is just to make sure, well, I'm going to be happier with these joints. It's just going to strengthen it up that little bit. We're still using all the right hand pieces because that's what we've got in stock. Well, no, we've actually got in stock, but we have to use the right handed pieces because of the window frames. So we're just going to keep building that up like so. I'm just doing this just so you can get an idea. So I'm just going to use small pieces in here like so. Now that covers the whole of the area. I will stagger the piece on the side here. This side we're going to leave as it is, because this is the other side where the other wall comes into. So what I'm actually going to do is now I'm going to glue all this down. It isn't essential that it's dead level, because we're going to be covering this in plaster and wallpaper, because this is going to be the inside. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to get this all glued down, and then we can move on to the far wall. Okay, yeah, that surprised you. Now before we go any further, I thought we'd just take a quick look at the third mould that Diorama Debris sent me, and that was the actual sills. And as you can see, we get, well, 4 types of sill. We get the very large sill, which is for the door, and this is tapered at the front, and also it's got a line all the way through it to show you where the window comes to, as well as where to take it to the brickwork. Let me get a pointing stick, which I haven't got. We can use a file, that will do. So this part here, that's where the wall would come, the edge of the wall would come. This part would protrude out past the wall, and the same with that. This line along the back here, that's where the actual window would be sat. So any water that ran down would run down here and off this slope at the front. We've got the same for the step on this side, and also within the mould they supply just another window one, but just a plain square one, flat one, and the same with the door. So that's what you actually get out the mould. And before I go any further, on this front, I'm going to put these sills in so I can get this PVA'd up tonight and left to dry until tomorrow. So I'll put you on pause and we'll get these fitted. Okay, we'll just move these out of the way. And as you can see, I've knocked the actual windows out as well. Very easy to do. Virtually tapped them and they fell out. Now, we're going to need to put the smaller ones in for the window, which hopefully, yes, just dropped in like that. Probably the next one probably won't. It will probably need some moving around and wiggling, or even some cutting out. But the first one did drop in nice. The second one's not. I'm not even going to attempt to push it. That one needs a little bit cleaning out, and so does that one. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go around and I'm just going to clean these up on the inside. I should just be using my little hook scalpel, cleaning up on the inside, and then I'll be fitting them and gluing them in place. And I will come back to you as soon as I've done them. Now I've got all the sills glued in, and them sills really do make the front pop. I really do like them little sills, they really are nice. What I've done as well, I've given it a coat of PVA, and I'm going to leave this to dry. I'm going to put this to one side because I'm actually going to grout this up on the bench flat because I think it's going to be easier, and I think I'm going to do the same with the side wall as well. So get them all grouted up, and all it leaves me then is just to run along this edge to grout the two together when they're actually joined. I'm also considering doing the windows and the doors flat on the bench because it would be so much easier to be able to fit them and mess about them like that than it would be stood up. So watch this space. To start off with, we'll get it grouted and I'll make a decision if we're going to do the windows and doors before we actually fit it all together. So we'll move on and we'll get started now on backing the sidewall up. Right, the front section's been moved to one side, and that, I'm going to leave that to dry now overnight. Now we'll move on to the side panel, and this is all being glued together. We did that in the other video, yes. All being glued together, so we're ready for backing up. Now, what I'm actually going to do is I want to overlap all these joints because to me they're going to be a weak area. So the way I'm going to do it is I'm roughly going to go in the center with my first panels like so, and when that one clips in, so I'm roughly going to go in the center. Now it was 16 courses up, so I will do 8 courses top, 8 courses bottom to bring that right, and that then will bring that right to that edge there as well. That edge here is going to be left like that because that's the edge that joins in with the front section. So I'm going to get on with that. I'm going to get these 8 courses cut for top and bottom and the side bits, get them all glued down, and then I should come back to you. Okay, this one's been backed up now. I haven't gone too anal with the coursing. I've used up cuts, bits and pieces. The coursing does run off. You get a header against a stretcher bond. I'm not too bothered about this because this is the back. It's going to be covered with plasterboard, and the only reason I've done it in brick is just in case I do want some plaster broken off, that we can actually see brickwork. I've given it a coat of PVA. I've given both sides a coat of PVA. I'll turn that one over. This, I'll just give it a 50-50 mix, i.e. 50 PVC and 50% water. Very easy. Thin it down, paint it on, and leave it to dry. Now this is all dry, the same as if I bring in the front. we've got the front that's dry as well. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to grout this all up. So I'll reposition you and I'll just run through what I'm using and how I grout it. Okay, grouting up. Now, you've PVA'd it. It's been left to dry overnight. That's a 50-50 mix of PVA and water. And it's been left to dry. You need to leave it to dry overnight. Now, to grout it up, all we're going to be using is standard decorator's filler. Nothing added, nothing taken away, just ordinary poly filler. Any cheap wall filler for decorating, it doesn't matter, as long as it's just standard decorator's filler. Now we're going to mix this up to a workable, how should I say, a workable paste, a brushable paste, should I say. Let's get that in. I'll probably put a bit too much water in there. There you go. And it really doesn't matter how thin or thick you actually do it. It's really up to you what you feel comfortable with. I'm just gonna, here we go. So I've got it down to, that's going to be just about a brushable paste. Then simply with an old paintbrush, just start working it in to your brickwork, like so. Then when you got it pushed in, if you know what I mean, if you just keep dragging your brush over the top of it, it will take the worst of it off, because we're going to use just a dry cloth when it's dried. Well, not dried actually, when you've completed it all, then we come back with a dry cloth and we take all the residue off. So I'm going to carry on and I'm going to cover all this front section, and then I shall come back to you and I'll just show you how we take the filler off. Right, everywhere's been covered. It's not even dry yet, but just an ordinary cloth, and just start cleaning off any excess. Now it looks a bit bright, but in real life it's not. It's quite, even at this stage, it's giving quite a nice effect. And we just keep working around with a cloth. Don't rub too hard, because you will rub the PVA off, and that's what's protecting it. So that's what we do, is just keep rubbing around, cleaning off the areas, and round areas like the sills, just get yourself a toothpick or something like that and just clean up, just generally clean up. But we want the bulk of the residue of the plaster off. Now we can tone all this down a bit later on with a wash. The wash will actually sink straight into the plaster. So if you use a black wash, you can actually create a very light grey mortar joint. Me personally, I do like the lighter one, so I'll probably be using something like a beige wash on it. But we'll get to that a bit later on. But all I'm going to do now is I'm just going to carry on rubbing and cleaning all this up, and I'll be back to you when we're finished. Okay, I've given it all a rub down with a cloth, and now I'm just going to leave it to dry. I'm going to put it to one side. A bit later on I will show you what it looks like with a wash on it, because I will put a wash on it. And well, that's it. So I'm going to get on now with the other panel, get that done, get that finished off, and I will be back with you shortly. Okay, apologies, different camera. Now the panel has been, I've given it a wash and I'm quite happy with it. A couple of issues that I've picked out for, because I can see them, is the first one is that we can actually see the panel line where the two panels join. Looking at it, I've not got enough plaster put into it, and that's what makes it stand out. So I will be just rubbing a tiny bit of plaster in there
and just blending that in and making that disappear. The second bit is I was a little bit liberal with the wash, and this area here didn't quite get enough, so like I say, I'll be going in and touching these bits up, but the rest of it I'm more than happy, it's given me some great tones all the way around, because brickwork on a house, it weathers differently all over, so more than happy with that, and it's given me a great base for when I do the final weathering all over. So that's the front panel, which I'm happy with. Moving on to the second panel. Now the second panel, I've pulled myself a few issues out. The first issue is that we can actually see the join going up there. It blends in nicely here, it blends in nicely there. I think what the problem was, I put a little bit too much PVA in between the joints, which squeezed out, and when the actual wash has come to go onto it, it hasn't decided to take that well on that area, so it's just a little bit prominent. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to go in with a small brush and just touch that in and just make it disappear. The rest of the panel, no problems at all. The areas that I didn't do the grouting as much, is that's all standing out and all nice, as you can see there and there. It's done exactly what I wanted it to do. So all in all, I'm quite happy with the panel, and what I'm also going to do now is end this video, for the simple reason is we're up to 20 minutes again, and the time just seems to fly by when I'm doing these videos. So I'm going to end this video here, and in the next video we will be getting on with the windows, assembling the actual two sides together, floors, plaster and paper and all bits and pieces like that. So that will be covered up in the next couple of videos, which it will be the next couple of videos. What I will do though is I'm going to take a few photographs, because the light isn't that favourable for this panel at the moment. This is all artificial light. I shall open the door and try and get a bit of natural light onto it, just so you can really see the finer stuff around. And that's about it. So I'm going to thank you very much for joining me, and hopefully we will see you on the next one.